So a few techniques that are presented by Amy Cuddy in her book Presence are things like smiling when you meet someone, taking up space, power poses, not getting distracted by negative statistics. This book discusses numerous actions a person can take to improve their presence. Have you implemented any techniques from this book? And what techniques have you implemented and what was the outcome? Edwin.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for the question. So, smiling when you meet someone, I've definitely definitely have done that one. But then also, I found myself in a job interview, interviewing a candidate, and I could tell the candidate was like super nervous. And so all I did in order to try to break the ice is I just smiled, right? I just like, yeah, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. And just smiling and sort of presenting yourself in a friendly manner, taking that tone of presence, really was able to calm the other individual down and allow them to, do their best interview or, display their best self, right? So a lot of times smiling and some of the techniques can really, break tension, right? They can really kind of, break tension in some difficult situations. Of course, we mentioned earlier that I tried to power pose, and then also data. So the book talks about negative statistics like your batting average and saying, oh, your batting average is only a 133, so you're probably going to strike out against this particular pitcher. But yeah, I mean, I do look at the statistics, but I don't allow those statistics or KPIs to really frame the situation. Like, so if I'm looking at data and the data isn't where I want to be, I immediately shift to saying to myself, okay, what do we need to do to shift this data to get it in the right direction? So I don't allow it to say, well, we're going to perform badly again today because we performed badly yesterday. No, because I know that, hey, we can change it, right? We can take certain actions in order to make sure that these negative statistics turn into positive statistics. So there have been a few things in this book that I've been able to successfully go out and implement, and it has made a meaningful change or difference in my life and how others perceive me. Have any of you guys had any experiences that you were able to implement from the book Presence?
Yeah, I think the one that is part of my daily sort of habit now is taking up space. I would say probably I've been doing that before reading through the book, but definitely as I was reading the book the first time, it kind of just clicked with how I was doing things, and definitely reinforce the idea of trying to take up more space in whatever situation. Even now, for example, I am sitting a little bit more wider. You can see my only my top half, but yeah. But definitely I think it has kind of become part of my habits, and I think it has been useful in many situations. The other thing is, they also talk about it in the book, is to slow down the speed of your delivery, because that also kind of expands the so-called I can't remember how she put it, but kind of expands the space in a more vocal manner. And I started out not because I want to have the space, but more because I don't want to do the ums and ahs too often. That's part of the training from my my Toastmasters sessions. They will actually count how many ums and ahs you make, right? And so in order to not do that, I just slow down, pause a little bit to think, and it turns out to be a good thing. So that's something I've been using quite a bit now.
I think for me, it reinforced the power of silence, those in between moments for me, that For me, the power posing didn't resonate as much. I think that I do an embodied practice, which might be analogous to the power posing, but I think I in terms of my own somatic work, there's levels of complexity that perhaps power posing doesn't attend to. And Amy Cuddy could very well attend to it or want to attend to it, but I think the confines of a book that's not 1,000 pages, she really had to tailor what she was presenting. But for me, going back to the silence, that there's information in the silence if we allow it to be there. That what we call liminal space, that in between, that we often tend to shy away from. Those what we call pregnant pauses. We try to fill it with stuff. We try to fill it with doing and words and action. But to lean back and let it inform us too, that there's a lot of presence within that, and what we can learn from each other. Perhaps that moment of silence allows us to be open to and listen to what others are showing up for. So I think for me, that was, the power in the silence that I will carry forth. And also it reminded me to check myself throughout the day, to check my posture, and those reminders that those little nudges, those little incremental behavioral changes that we make throughout the day have an impact overall and can be potentials for big changes.
One last thing before we, in reading the book and looking at all the techniques and looking at all the different things, power poses, smiling, taking up space, specifically, it's interesting because when I'm in in-person meetings, I now can see those behaviors, right? I now see the different people's personality, and it allows me to sort of read people better. Right. You can kind of tell who the important people are, not necessarily because you've looked them up or their position. You can just look at their behavior in the meeting, and you can really understand sort of the power dynamic that's sort of taking place inside the conversation or in the room. So it's really sort of helped me just to sort of perceive certain people in certain ways, just by having this frame of reference and knowing what to look for from a posture perspective and from a taking up space perspective. So that's
an interesting, just what came up for me when you were speaking about posturing in a room is, I think that as Amy Cuddy explores presence, it's having the presence to also weather the storms that might show up, right? Within a meeting where there's so many different dynamics. There could be aggressive personalities within that too, a lot of posturing, right? A lot of that silverback dominant, beating of the chest too, and not to succumb to that, because a lot of that, what could be felt as someone's personal power showing up as a social power, that power over, and not to crumble in the face of that. Because I think that in boardrooms, some of those tactics are used to quieten people, to set a tone and a hierarchy. So if this whole exploration of presence is being able to decipher that, not be in your nervous system, because there was a lot of physiological and neurological background that Amy Cuddy presented as well, and how we can be cognizant of, when someone postures and tries to power over us, how we can regulate our nervous system so we're not affected.